Hi everyone, welcome to Reading with Even. Let's get on with the bookish video. So today, a kind of a short and sweet one. We're just going to talk about some more creature feature recommendations. It's a themed recommendations list that I occasionally do, where I just pick out a common trope or a setting or whatever else in different books and just recommend them to you. And a small caveat that it doesn't mean that they're all my favorites of all time. Quite a few of them that I talked about in these videos I don't like that much, but if I read a book and I think, oh, it fits this trope, I am going to recommend it, because that's what these videos are for. So without any further ado, let's dive in. So the first book is A Misfortune of Lake Monsters, and it's about Lemon, who is kind of forced to be the town's, well, it's basically like a bit of a Loch Ness monster situation. And she's kind of stuck. She wants to leave, she wants to move away, but she's forced to live in the town and take over the family business and pretend to be this monster to draw in tourists. But then everything changes when she realizes that maybe the monsters are real and they're not exactly friendly. It's very kind of like It crossed with the Goonies, crossed with Stranger Things, back when they were still kids, so 10 years ago. And it's I found it quite heartwarming and easy to read. I read it as an arc for this website that no longer is a website, it's a podcast now, and I did not make the cut to continue collaborating because I never expressed an interest in the podcast, but now I have a podcast with my good friend Charlie, so who's the winner here? Ultimately, that's a tangent, but I read it on ebook, and I don't really read ebooks because just my eyes hurt and I spend a lot of time in front of the screens anyway. So it was it can be hard for me to concentrate on an ebook. So if I give an ebook a good ranking, then that is that is the good stuff. So I think I give it like a 4, and I think there were a couple bits that was like, it's definitely not like an all-time favorite, but it was a good time. I forgot the author's name, but I will put it in the description because I'm filming with my phone and I don't want to take my phone, stop filming, and have to reposition. Anyway, onto a book I didn't love so much, Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. This one I unhauled, hence why I don't have it. It follows an engaged couple who go to celebrate their engagement to this cabin in the woods, and the fiance starts talking in her sleep, and they start seeing like weird figures outside and footsteps, like all of the creepy shit. And yeah, it's I really thought it had 5-star potential for me in the first like 60 pages, and it's not really a spoiler, but like that's the only part of the book that takes in that cabin, like the synopsis basically covers like all of the first 60 pages, and then the story goes elsewhere. And I'm not saying that I hated necessarily that it went somewhere else, but it's just ultimately the book lost me. I think I gave it a 2.5. It had potential, but ultimately I just thought that it was too long for what it tried to be, and I thought it was just like I didn't care for the characters. But the reason I'm putting it on this list again is because it definitely tracks with the creature feature, because you have a creature who is following this couple and potentially, interfering in the fiance's mind and all of that. Like, it definitely all tracks and it all fits. And I know a lot of booktubers actually rank that book as some of their favorites of all time, and they have really good things to say about that book. So, who am I to tell them? But it was my opinion. And then another book that I unhauled is The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas, and this one is a historical horror, but very heavy on the historical, very little on the horror actually, which was the reason why it didn't necessarily work for me. I think I gave it a 3. The cover was gorgeous, but it's like, I'm not going to keep a book just because it has a gorgeous cover. It's like, it's a very magpie thing to do, and I am a magpie, but I'm trying to not be a magpie so much. And yeah, it's about a woman who was attacked by a vampiric sort of creature when she was younger, and her best friend and like her sort of soulmate, true love, whatever, abandoned her there, and then he comes back nearly a decade later when she's a war nurse, and then yeah, it just, you notice how I'm not super enthusiastic because the story focuses on things that don't particularly interest me that much. It's very much like a historical romance over like historic horror elements, but ultimately I do think that the vampire portrayal and vampire mythology that they presented, like what we got, was really interesting. I just wish that it leaned more into that, but it is definitely a viable vampire story. Therefore, creature feature aspect is a check. But yeah, now on to the 4 books that I actually have still that I loved enough to keep. And where do I start? I'll just start from the top. Why not? Not necessarily in the order that I read them, because that's how they were on my list, because I just keep adding onto the list. Oh, I read this book. It fits the trope. And then when I have, like, I don't know, over 5, that's when I usually make it so I have a bite-sized video, because my videos tend to be pretty long. So anyway, Near the Bone by Christina Henry. It's one I read fairly recently, like last month. Yeah, recent. And it's about a couple who live in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and the wife is being abused by her husband, and they also have to deal with a monster that is out to get them outside. But everything is not as it seems. The whole abusive husband-wife dynamic is a lot more sinister than you might think, but I'm not going to say anything because it is a huge plot point, a spoiler. I'm just going to say that when I started reading immediately, I was like, this is not, this is not that, and I was right. I was like, this is that, and I was like, oh, I didn't expect to be right. Why am I right? I don't like being right about this. And then where does the creature feature come in? Obviously, so this book is a lot of metaphorical horror as well, about abuse, about overpowering someone, making them feel worthless, and intimidating them. But there's also a literal creature feature roaming about and killing people in some gruesome ways. And if I had to place what sort of creature it is, we never really get the exact lore behind the creature's origins. I think I can say that much without it being a spoiler. Like, we don't get, how some books you get like a super in-depth explanation. So if I had to categorize, I would say just a creature of mixed origins, I would say. Not that this is necessarily a category of sorts, but, like if I said, oh, this like subsection is for vampires, whatever, but I didn't think that far into it, if I'm completely honest with you, because my next one is a vampire book, and it is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. So if I wanted to do that, I would have had to lump that one with Vampires of El Norte. Whatever. It's fine. I'm the one overthinking this, not you guys. So, but if you want me to like do more like granular subcategories when I make these, and maybe like wait till I have more books to talk about them, then do let me know. But I know that in today's day and age, sometimes it's good to have like a 15-minute video as opposed to 50. So anyway, So Thirsty is about 2 women, Sloane and Naomi. So Sloane's husband is a cheating scumbag, and instead of spending his wife's birthday with him, he sends her away with Naomi, her best friend, and, invites random women in his home. All that. Whatever. Scumbag. So obviously Sloane kind of knows this. She knows about her husband's sexcapades, whatever. But she doesn't really have her confrontational skills are to be desired. She doesn't really, she stagnates. She lets her life slip her by, pass her by, you know what I mean? And she doesn't really take any big risks, and she doesn't leave her husband because she's afraid. So, she, of change and all that. She goes to, this resort with Naomi, her best friend, and Naomi's a lot more adventurous, and, they create this balance between each other, and then things take a turn when they, discover themselves kind of being trapped in a vampire orgy. And then it just goes from there. They discover a lot of things about friendship, about love, about not settling, about ageism, about, youth, and, feeling like, you need more time to do everything. It definitely goes, and it's not necessarily like a horror in a, it's so disturbing and dreadful way. It's horror in a more entertaining way. I think Rachel Harrison's really good at that. So I'm definitely excited to read more of her stuff, as I keep saying. I swear I will get to more of her stuff. But, you know, have you seen all the unread ones on my shelf? There's a lot. You know, so I'm trying to get through to them. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this book still. It just spoke to me in a lot of ways. And like I said, the vampire aspect is really like sort of entertaining, sort of fun. You know, they delve into you know, they allow them to act horribly or to act super like over sexualized and sensual, because, you know, I feel like vampirism kind of got toned down, like its sexual aspect got toned down a bit in the past like 10 years or so of its portrayal, and it's like a lot more gritty action now. But like vampires were sexual representations of, you know, your repressed desires and whatnot back in the Victorian times when the mythology was created. So I feel like it was nice to see that. Anyway, on is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. This is about, I think it's a Yeti. Yeah, I think so. Something like along them lines. So you have a reality TV show where the stars, it's kind of like The Bachelor. It's even blurbed here. So you have these stars going on to this small island because the budget couldn't afford for them to go anywhere like Bali or whatever, to, you know, get eliminated and then pick, you know, so that the person could pick the winner and all that. And all these women, they have their own agendas. They have, you know, their own reasons for wanting to win: money, acknowledgement, what, you know, career breaks, whatever, you know. And then they start disappearing one by one, and the rest is history. So this one is super fun. I personally prefer the first half. That's why I think I gave it a 4. I definitely prefer the first half to the later half, just because I feel like it goes a little bit... I didn't particularly love where it went, but at the same time I was like, well, you know, again, I keep saying whatever, but I still liked it. And it definitely has the creature feature aspect of, you know, the kills and the stalking and, you know, all the, you know, definitely a good fun time overall. And it's relatively short as well. I think it's only like over 200 pages. So if you're looking for something relatively quick, that would get you to your, I keep saying reading goals. It's only January, but you know what? You might as well want to get ahead and crack a few short ones in if you're, you know, if you're fussed about the numbers and whatnot. And then the last I have is The Shuddering by Anya Alborn. So far, her only book that I read, and I want to change that, but again, too many books, too little time. So this is for the fans of Until Dawn. The reason I found out about this one is because there was this, like, if you like a video game, read this book, post on Instagram, and Until Dawn's one of my favorite games of all time, and people said if you like Until Dawn, you will love this book. So I think I again gave it a 4, something like that. And it's about a group of people who go to a ski cabin, and there are Wendigo-esque creatures on the mountain who want to snacky snack on them. That's pretty much what you need to know. We get random chapters of the Wendigo creatures wreaking havoc on poor, unsuspecting extras. And I think that's because a lot of the action doesn't really start until like past the halfway point, so they had to squeeze that in to show you it's happening, guys. You'll get to see this. But yeah, you see, you know, the kills, and you see like they're pretty graphic. You see all, you know, the little bits about the, what's the word that I'm looking for? You know, you see all the gore. Like, it's pretty gory for a book, and you see all the stalking and everything that goes with it, and it has like your very traditional horror ending. I'm not gonna say anything else there, but there's plenty of monstrous stuff. But you know, you also have characters that you care for. I really grew to care for this group of people. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely built, you know, a little bit of this and that, and I was loving it, and it made me feel sad when certain things happened to certain characters. So yeah, definitely really loved that one as well. Although I would say that these ones, you know, 4 or 5 stars, I think that those are really good odds. So yeah, These are the new creature feature books that I read in the past year-ish, I think. Some of these are 2024, but you know what? Like I said, I gather like a good half a dozen and then I talk about them. So it's definitely I think that creature features, they're quite a broad category because once again you have, vampires, you have like Wendigo, werewolves, yetis, whatever, you have all sorts of even like something like bug or ant horror or whatever else could fit under that category. I say that because I have some that could fit that category on my shelves right now. But I think it's overall a broad thing that a lot of books could fall under it. So I'm interested in quite a few of those. So there's definitely going to be another video about this sort of horror, don't know how soon, probably in another year or so. But yeah, if you liked it, if you read any of these, if you have similar recommendations, please do share. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.